Zoom meetings or Google Meet. All right. So I do request each one of you to be up. I know it's afternoons are not the best time, but you know, this is the only way now for a few more months possibly. So let's all hope for the best. But till then, this is all that we have and we make the best of it. All right. So I would like all of you now to be focused, to listen, please mute yourselves while I'm speaking. And if you have a problem or you want a clarification, you can put up your hand or, you know, put a question. All right. So I will now speak.
Last 20 minutes we'll have a session, question answer session. In that they can ask you. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. Fine. And Tessin, do we have a break around 3:30
yeah.
for 10 minutes?
Yeah.
10
yeah.
minutes?
10 minutes break. Okay.
Okay. Fine. 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 That's okay then. Okay. So we get started. Everyone, do I have your attention? Everyone is with me? Yes. Put up your hands. At least I can see hands if you raise them. Are you all? Yes. Are you all? Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Ma'am. Yes.
All right. Okay. Thanks so much. So like Dr. Tessin mentioned, this is all of you have joined a course which is on gender and particularly sensitization. So what I'm going to discuss with you today is about clarifying issues about what is gender sensitization, what are the challenges, why is there a need for gender sensitization in the first place? Today, why are we talking so much about gender sensitization in colleges, in universities, in schools, in workplaces, private, government, corporate? So why is there so much of talk and discussion on sensitization? Am I clear to all of you, or should I talk louder?
Fine, ma'am. Fine.
Okay,
fine.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so let me begin by a few quotes that you would also be familiar with. One of a very well-known women studies scholar, Virginia Woolf, said a very, very important and perceptive, she made a very important and perceptive statement, which was, for most of history, Anonymous was a woman. Do you understand what I'm saying? That when we look at a lot of literature, poetry, quotations throughout history, very often we'll find at the end, there is no name of any author. And we just have anonymous. And if you look at why anonymous, most of the time, anonymous meant it was written by a woman who was not very comfortable, who did not feel she had the freedom to express herself, and hence she would hide behind the term anonymous. Okay, so this is also telling us that there is a history, not just here, but across the world, of women feeling discriminated, feeling subjugated, feeling unequal, feeling that the world is not fair to them. And hence, one of the ways in which we understand this discrimination, if we look at this term, anonymous. Let me now introduce you to another quotation, which is again very, very popular. We have begun to raise our daughters more like our sons, but very few of us have the courage to raise our sons like our daughters. Okay, so this is again another very important and a very revealing aspect of society, all over. In India, of course, it is much more, but you also find this, it's a global phenomena that, yes, daughters are now being told, you know, you have jobs, you have this, you have that, but sons are not being told that you have a role in the house, in caring, in nurturing, in taking care of, or in cooking, cleaning. That still continues to be the job and duty of the daughter or the woman. Okay, so with these two quotes, let me move on to asking you a few questions. The first question is, do you think it is still a man's world? Now, I want some of you to respond to this. You can unmute and tell me, do you think it's a man's world, or do you think it's not? If it is, why? If it's not, why? So can I have a few responses on this, please? You can unmute. I think you can unmute. You know the unmute icon? Or is it centralized by MANUU? Can you, yeah.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Good afternoon.
Yeah.
I feel things are changing a bit, but still you can find patriarchal society.
Right.
And I feel gender sensitization has to be from the home, and more changes have to take place.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to respond before I move on? This.
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
yeah,
ma'am. I
sure.
would like to.
Sure.
I agree to the fact that the women they are getting more aware regarding their rights, but at the same time, as a teacher of law also, I've been playing a great role in spreading this gender sensitization. Still, I find that the world is full of this patriarchal kind of feeling, right? And surely we have a great role to play in that. And it's not that in India also, I went to Sweden and I found the discriminatory things happening with the women there as well. So there's a need that such kind of awareness must be broadened, and people should know about it. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you for those two responses. Is there anyone else? Is there any, I don't want to be very gender centric, but is there any other man or male faculty who would like to respond? Or do you want me to move on? Okay. All right. We will have discussion at the end. So please, and at that time, I would like participation from everybody. Okay. Gender sensitization is not just a woman's focused topic or theme. It is for everyone, and everyone has to participate equally. All right. Okay. Now, I want to ask you another question. Why do most women have jobs and not careers? Okay, so we have two questions. Is it a man's world? Why do most women have jobs and not careers? And third, in the context of this particular topic that I'm talking on, how do we create a work-study environment in our colleges, in our universities that respects all genders? Okay, that is, as teachers, as all of us, all of you, all of us are teachers. So we all have a stake in creating a gender equal environment in our colleges, universities, campuses. Now, one important point that I want to make here is, when we talk of gender, traditionally we have seen gender as two, male women and men, or masculine and feminine. Okay, but today it is recognized that gender is a spectrum, that there are many genders. And when I say we respect gender, I mean we respect all genders. Okay, so that's something that we have to keep in mind. Now I just want to sort of get you all a little awake. So again, I'm going to ask you a question. A child and dad meet with an accident. The child needs surgery. The surgeon enters the operation theater, sees the child and says, I cannot operate on my son. Who is the surgeon? Come on, quickly, this is a very easy answer. Come on.
Mother, ma'am.
Yes, it's the mother. But most often when I've asked this among students, it takes them a long time to tell me it is the mother, because we do not think in our whole socialization, in the way we have internalized gender roles, we do not think that a surgeon can be a woman. Okay, so this is just one example to show you how strong gender roles and images are imprinted in our minds. Okay, and therefore in our behavior. Okay, now let me move on now to, I think in the morning session, you did some concepts, isn't it? What is gender? What is gender equality, etc., etc.? Did you do these concepts? Yes or no? Come on. You had a morning session today, no? The difference between gender, sex, one is biological, one is a sociological construct, because I won't be going into all of that. Yeah, does somebody want to say anything, or should I move on? Okay. Now, one important concept that I do want to touch upon is patriarchy. You may have also dealt with this concept in the morning lecture that you had today, but patriarchy is something that has been with us, continues to be with us for a very, very long time. And it is something that both men and women, particularly in India, have internalized. We are all, we function according to the rules of patriarchy, whether we are men or women. So while men are patriarchal, women also can be patriarchal because they have internalized patriarchy. Okay, so this is patriarchy basically means it is a social system where boys, men are seen as superior, in control, domination over girls and women. Okay, and this kind of thinking has got legitimized in all our institutions, whether it is the family, whether it's the community, whether it is most religions, whether it is culture, whether it is rituals, whether it is the economy. So you will find even in the economy, how does it get reflected? If you look at the wages for men and women, are they equal? No, they are not equal. Okay, for the same work that is done, men get a higher wage than women. So the female labor force wages are much lower than that of men. If you look at most rituals, men have an advantage. You have to be there. I mean, a man is necessary. The sun is very important in Hindu rituals during the funeral times to light the pyre of the parent, either mother or father. So These have all got legitimized. So what does it mean when it gets legitimized? It means it has all become normal. We have all accepted it as this is correct. This is the way things are, and this is correct behavior. Okay. Now, when we talk of gender sensitization, when we talk of critically looking at patriarchy, we now see that no, this is not correct. Why is it that these this patriarchal attitudes and forms of behavior have become normal in history? We need to change some of this. Okay, so that is something that is a very, very, very difficult but a very critical task of gender sensitivity. That we have to understand what is patriarchy, how does patriarchy operate in society, in universities, in classrooms, in playgrounds, in movie theaters, in roads, both in the private and the public spaces. How does patriarchy operate? Because only if we understand patriarchy and how it operates, will we then think of changing some of these patriarchal structures and making relations between men, women, and other genders more equal. Okay, so one of the objectives of gender sensitization is to critically look at patriarchy. Okay, so how would we then define gender sensitization? Basically, gender sensitization is now become a catchphrase. Everybody is talking about it, from government to police to to soldiers to teachers to students. It's everyone. Everybody now is doing gender sensitization, but how they are doing it, what is the final outcome? These are all questions that are still unanswered. But basically, a definition of gender sensitization is that it aims to change behavior among all genders towards each other and to instill sensitivity and empathy into the views that we hold, to make them more equal and more respecting of all genders. Okay, till now we said, the males had, they were at the top of the hierarchy, they had it going, everything they did was not questioned usually. Now we are saying all genders should be treated with more empathy and more sensitivity to make them more equal. All right. Also, what gender sensitization does is it helps each one of us, each one of you who's a participant in this course, to examine your own personal beliefs, your actions, your attitudes, and see whether maybe after this course, some of these attitudes need to change. Something that each one of you has accepted as the truth, the norm, the correct behavior. After a course like this on gender sensitization, it should force you to think, to reassess your attitude and belief and say, maybe what I'm doing was not right. Maybe I have to change in this way. Maybe I have to appreciate housework much more. Maybe I have to, appreciate that my partner or my wife is doing work both outside earning money and in the house, and I'm not contributing much to the house. Or it may force you to think that, okay, both my children, my son and my daughter, they will get the same education and the same encouragement from me for their careers and their future. Okay, so this is something, it is very important that individual introspection we need to do. We have to question some things, attitudes, beliefs that we have for till now thought they are good. There's nothing wrong with them. Okay, now we have to say, is it correct or does it need to change? Okay, now one thing about gender sensitization is it's not a battle between men and women. Okay, it is not. It's not. What I'm trying to suggest is it is not women versus men or men and women versus other genders. No, it is about women becoming sensitive about, you know, experiences of men become sensitive to experiences of women, both men and women becoming sensitive to experiences of other genders. All right, so please do not think when we talk of gender sensitization that it is, you know, men are bad and women are good. No, this is not like that. It is, how do we make all genders respect and be sensitive to each other? All right, please, you know, don't think that there is this is a kind of a battle between men and women. All right, and the other objective of gender sensitization is the third, which is the most important actually. If you generate awareness about genders, you can then push for policies, for programs, for changes, and for laws that are more gender sensitive. Okay, so for example, there is a school in a rural area, there is a high. Now, if you are gender sensitive, you would argue that if you were the headmaster of that school or headmistress of that school, you would argue that toilets for girl children are a very important, you know, their location, where and their, you know, the need for toilets first. Most rural schools, in fact, don't have toilets, both for men, boys and girls. But if they have, the toilet for girls have to be located in a place that gives them some privacy. And also there are certain needs, biological needs of girls that have to be taken care of. So unless you are gender sensitive, you would say, okay, wherever the boys' toilet is, you put the girls' toilet. Sometimes it doesn't work like that. This is how through our changes in our own individual attitudes, we can bring about changes in society, in our workplace, in the environment in which we are, of which we are a part. Okay, now let me move on to just sharing with you certain traits that are different between men and women. Okay, so and this is expected behavior. This is how patriarchy has constructed the good man and the good woman, or the good boy and the good girl. For men, aggressive is good. For women, if you're aggressive, it's a negative. Okay, it's not good. For men or boys, to be independent is a good quality. Okay, for women, you're always kind of told you have to be dependent. Okay, you cannot be independent. The minute you become independent, it is seen as a criticism, as a fault, as a problem. Okay, all right. For boys, if you are, you know, if you are very confident, if you're dominant, these are positive qualities. For women, these are not seen as positive qualities in patriarchy. You have to be submissive. You have to be gentle. Okay, you have to be caring. These are seen as good qualities for women. But the question that I want to ask you is, do you not think being gentle, being caring, being nurturing, being obedient are good qualities by themselves? Whether they are for boys or girls, it doesn't matter. So why is it then that these qualities are largely expected from girls or daughters and wives and not from husbands, sons, and brothers? So these are questions that we all now need to ask ourselves. Lot of this we have taken for granted. Okay. There are many more qualities which I'm not going into now. I'm just, okay, one last quality, which is, all of us have experience of this. Men are told that they should not cry. To cry, you're being like a woman. You're being a sissy. How can men cry? Do men cry? No. That's what patriarchy has. You have to be strong. You should never show your feelings, is what you are told as a man or a boy. Crying is seen as a very womanly, lady like quality. But if we are honest today, doctors and everyone tells us that we need to express our feelings, whether they are happy or they are sad. It is not good to keep our feelings locked up inside us. Okay. So whether you are a boy or a girl or a man or a woman, it doesn't matter. If there is something that has hurt you, that has upset you, you have a right to express it, cry, and get it out of your system. So these are things, so there are often many times when men want to break down, they want to just, share their grief, but they have to put on this act that they are men. They should not, that they can, and that actually leads to a lot of internal stress and pressure. And I think this is something that we all have to change now. There is nothing that is exclusive to men or exclusive to women or exclusive to other genders, except some biological truths. Yes, women can give birth, women can breastfeed. These are things which we know. We are not saying that, we want to change the whole, the biology, not at all. There are certain things, men and women are not same, they are different. But for some things, I think, which both men and women can also hear, they can change. That is something that we need to change when we talk of gender sensitization. Okay, are you following me till now? Can you just raise your hands or just give me a sign like this so that I know that you're with me? Or if you have a doubt, can I please see everyone's thumbs up or a wave or something? I'm only seeing the fan in some videos. I'm not seeing any people. Why am I not able to see everybody? Maybe I'll just change this a bit once. Okay, fine. I get you. All right. Okay, so now let me move on to gender roles. Okay, what are gender roles? Now, what patriarchy, all of this is connected finally to patriarchy. Please, that is something that you all have to remember. All right. Now, patriarchy has over the centuries decided on what are gender roles for men and women. Okay, now that is fine that you have certain gender roles, like women are the roles for them are taking care of children, of sick parents, in-laws, of the house, cooking, cleaning, etc., etc., etc. While men, the gender roles for men are that they go out, they earn, they do the shopping, etc., etc., etc. Now, these gender roles over the last centuries have got normalized everywhere across the world. Please, it's not just in India, it is everywhere. It is in the West, it is in the East, and it is also in India. The only thing about India that we need to remember is that in India, the hold of patriarchy is still very, very strong. While in many parts of the Western world, patriarchy has become less rigid, in India, it continues to be as strong and as dominant, and the change has been very, very slow. So what gender roles and patriarchy have done is they have stereotyped certain roles for men and for women. So when you think of a sports player, the immediate image is that of a boy. Okay. When you think of a nurse, you think immediately, or a teacher, you think immediately of a woman. A school teacher or a nurse is woman. When you think of scientists, again, the first image that comes to your mind is that of men. But today you find that all these stereotypes are changing. When you think of a pilot, again, we think of only men as pilots. So these gender roles, which have been totally kind of, not questioned over centuries, are today being questioned slowly, and some of them are changing. And we do find today that women are making an entry into different professions. Men are also doing more housework than they used to do earlier. So these gender roles are getting redefined. But this redefinition of gender roles is still very, 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 very small. A lot more change has to happen, and much more faster. And I think that is where the problem is, that change is happening, but very, very slowly. And the most important player in reinforcing gender stereotypes or changing gender stereotypes is the media. After the media, it is us teachers. What we teach in our classrooms, what we teach to our students is what they will go back, take to their homes, families, take to the, to the larger world that they interact with. And that is how then in small ways, changes will happen. Okay, so please remember that each one of you is, as a teacher, is an agent of change, because all of us who are teachers, we have a captive audience in our classrooms, whose thinking, whose attitudes, whose behavior we can change if we ourselves are convinced that this is wrong and this needs to change. We do have, I think one of the biggest powers that teachers have is this power to shape young minds. So I think that is something that we should see as our contribution to society, and that is our responsibility also to society. Okay? All right. Okay, now let me move on to discussing with you. I'm just going to, sort of present certain dimensions of gender which are today being discussed when we talk of gender sensitization. One, gender bias. Okay, gender discrimination, gender gaps, and all of you are teachers, so I'm not going to go into explaining each of these categories, but if you have any problems, please ask me in the end when we have 20 minutes. Okay, then gender inequalities, a gender approach or perspective, gender or women's empowerment, and then gender sensitization. Okay, so there are all these different dimensions of gender that are part of any training program on gender sensitization. Okay, now there are two terms that are associated with gender, where we say the condition and the position. Okay, condition of women is something that is linked to their material status. So a Dalit woman, her condition may be worse than my condition, me being a privileged, educated, urban, upper caste woman. Okay, so my condition is, we are both women, but my condition is definitely much better than the condition of a poor rural Dalit woman. Within the rural, the condition of the poor Dalit woman is worse than that maybe of an upper caste landlord or landlady's condition. Okay, so condition of women or condition of any gender is linked to material status. The second concept that comes is position. Position is more difficult to change, but that is what we need to address in gender sensitization. In gender sensitization, to be aware of conditions, that material conditions are different. They are affected by caste, class, urban, rural, religion, etc., etc. But the position of women in any society is linked to patriarchy, to their social status, to their decision-making powers, and to their role that they play within the family and within society. Okay, so that changing the position of women is a bigger challenge than changing the condition of women. You can empower a Dalit woman by, making self-help groups, giving them loans, etc., etc. But you cannot change her position within her family and society if by just changing her condition. No, changing the position is a more structural, a more difficult, and a more long-term process. Okay. All right. Now, when we talked about gender roles, just one point I forgot, which I would like to bring in is that, see, gender roles, there's no problem, that you say cooking is women, earning earning is by men. One doesn't see a conflict there. The conflict is because of the values that are attached to different kinds of work. So what is the value if someone is earning money and going out? That person is seen as doing more valuable work than someone who is at home cooking, cleaning, taking care of the baby, etc., etc. So the problem is not about if all work is seen, if there is a dignity of work, then there's no problem. But if in the dignity of work, certain work that is done by men are given more value than that the work done by women, that is a problem. And I think that is something that you need to remember about productive work and reproductive work. Okay, so these are some terms that you all have to get familiar with, and then look at it from your own experience, from your own perspective, from your own personal life. What has been your own understanding, what has been your own experience of all these terms, of gender roles, of patriarchy, of decision making, of dignity of work, etc., etc. Okay. Okay, now let me just share with you some statistics. Okay. Now, there was a study which was done, which says that to create a safer environment for women, who would be the most responsible for creating a safer environment? And over 80% said teachers in schools and colleges and universities. So that's why I'm constantly telling you that you do have an important role to play in society. That society is expecting us teachers to be the change agents. That we have to do gender sensitization. We have to teach our students the right ways, the right attitudes, the right behavior, and only then will we be able to have a more effective gender sensitization. Okay. All right, now let me come to the topic that we are dealing with, that is higher education. What are our concerns? What are our issues? What are our challenges? But before that, I thought, let me just discuss with you very briefly about one of the major issues that most colleges, universities, and I hope we don't have it in schools as yet, that are co-ed are facing. Even though those that are not co-ed are also, not all research institutions, workplaces, and that is sexual harassment. Okay. In fact, the whole idea of gender sensitization came initially because of the rise in sexual cases. Okay. All right. So what is sexual harassment? Is something that we all think we know, but maybe we don't know. So I'm just going to read out a few things that many of us actually may not even consider as sexual harassment. But today, under the Sexual Harassment Act in India, it is considered as sexual harassment. Okay. So what constitutes sexual harassment? Unwanted sexual texts, messages, emails. Very important. And today, this is one of the most used modes of sexually harassing people. Comments about your anatomy or body parts. Okay, very often, we don't realize, but we say, oh, you have a lovely smile or whatever. Now, if that comment is taken by the person, by the woman, as a friend making a comment on her, it's fine. But if that comment is to a person you don't know very well and she is not happy with that comment, it could be construed as a sexual comment. Okay. Then propositions, of course, this is to engage in sexual activity. Being asked repeatedly for a date, to go out with someone. It's the first time you ask someone for a date, that's not sexual harassment. Okay, you want to go, you liked someone, you want to go out with someone, but that person has said, no, I'm not interested. You have to learn to take no for an answer. If you continue to stalk the person, continue to demand a date from that person, then that will be seen as sexual harassment. The key word in sexual harassment is unwanted. Unwanted. Okay? So please be very, very clear on that. Now, also other things that come is whistling, catcalls, passing comments on, someone you see on the road, offer of a promotion in exchange for a sexual favor, threats of punishment for refusing a sexual favor, unwanted physical contact, hugging, etc. Then, of course, the rape, etc., molestation, whatever. Okay. So I think if many of us women, at least let me share my own personal, past with you. When I was a college student in Delhi, and I used to go by bus, from my home to the old Delhi campus, there was not a day I remember when in the bus I was not touched or whatever. Those days, we did not know what was sexual harassment. We were taught that there's a whole culture of silence, be quiet, don't raise an issue, just take it and just pretend as if nothing has happened. So we just took it as this is normal behavior by men. We understood it like that when I was a young, college student. Today, do you think a college student will keep quiet if the same thing happens to her? They will not keep quiet. So that change that has come is an important change. And that has come because gender sensitization has become part of our thinking, part of our curriculum, part of our discussions, training programs, etc., etc. Okay. So to say that if we don't discuss something, nothing will happen is true. If you discuss and keep on discussing, some changes do happen. Okay, and that is a very important step that we have to be aware of. Now, in India, when did the Sexual Harassment Act come in, and why did it come in? It came in because of, it's known as the Vishakha guidelines, and it came in because of, a whole rape and sexual harassment case that went on for years, because of which I'll just tell you the year. I think it was in 2013. Sorry, the Sexual Harassment Act came in 2013, and it is largely referred to as the Vishakha guideline, particularly for workplace sexual harassment. Okay, so now in the case of universities, this Sexual Harassment Act, after it came in 2013, was adopted by the University Grants Commission, and all colleges and universities were asked to have a committee that would look in cases of sexual harassment. Okay. Okay. Okay, now, after 2012, what happened in 2012? December, can someone tell me? You can unmute and give me an answer on this. Come on. 2012, December. What happened that shook the nation?
Nirbhaya's case.
Very good. So that was like a trigger. Okay. Till then, there were, the Vishakha guidelines had come. The Sexual Harassment Act of 2013 also came. But with 2012, that was what pushed the Sexual Harassment Act and made universities particularly take sexual harassment very, very seriously. So what did the UGC do? After the Justice Verma Committee was set up to look into that gang rape case of 2012, the Verma Committee reports made a very important finding, which is that they identified a cult of masculinity, a cult of aggression as the major cause of violence against women. Touching, harassment, and forced intercourse are all seen as normal to masculinity. This is Justice J.S. Verma Committee report talking about the behavior of men post the 2012 gang rape case. Now, as a result of this report and the kind of very strong criticism that the report made on attitudes and behavior of men, UGC set up a committee which is known as Saksham, S-A-K-S-H-A-M, the Saksham Committee in 2013. Okay, and this was a committee that looks into issues of ensuring the safety of women and also introducing programs of gender sensitization on campuses. So it had a very well-defined agenda, Saksham, which meant that look, what are the issues women face in colleges, universities, and campuses, and how does one try to deal with these issues? And for that, one important point that they kept emphasizing was gender sensitization. Okay. So why was UGC so concerned? UGC was concerned because today, most colleges, higher education has about 40% women. Okay, and they realized that for these 40% women, are the campuses safe? And what do we need to do to make our colleges and campuses more safe? Okay, so one of the things that one of the findings of the Saksham Committee was, and they visited a lot of state universities, central universities, colleges, government colleges, girls' colleges, co-ed colleges, boys' colleges, etc., all over the country. And what they finally found is gender sensitization is not just for students. They found that a lot of faculty, a lot of the non-teaching staff also need to be sensitized. So to think, when we as teachers, when we are said, oh, gender sensitizing, we think, okay, students ke liye hai. It's not for us, it's for students. But this is something also that we need to correct. If you look at some of the attitudes and views of faculty and of non-teaching staff, all of us need to be gender sensitized. It does not only make students our category of or our victims. Okay, all of us are equally to blame and we equally need gender sensitization. Now, how does one do gender sensitization? Okay, who are the different stakeholders for to whom we have to address gender sensitization programs? Now, in a college, there are obviously students, faculty, like I told you, non-teaching. Then you have security staff, very important. The way security staff deal with sometimes women students, at least in residential colleges and universities. Hostel staff, again, a very, very important category. Then if your college or your university has a health center, those health center staff, doctors need to be sensitive to both issues of all genders, not just of men, but of women and other genders also. So gender sensitization in a university or college is not just about students. It is about each one of us also accepting that maybe we have certain attitudes and ways of thinking that need to change. You know, unless we start with ourselves, if we think, I'm fine, I have no problems, I'm not at all, I'm very gender sensitive, I'm not, I believe in equality. But I think even with that kind of assured self confidence or faith in yourself, if you start questioning some of your attitudes, perceptions, value systems, you will find that, yes, I think there are some areas that I need to rethink and maybe change. Okay. So how does one do gender sensitization in a campus? The most important way of doing gender sensitization is now, which is mandated. You have to have it. It began with a gender sensitization cell, and now it is called Internal Complaints Committee, or ICC. Okay, so the main objectives of this cell or committee are that you sensitize, you create awareness about gender issues within the community of your college, university, research organization, and try to understand that gender sensitization is an interdisciplinary approach. It does not belong to political science or sociology or anthropology or anything, or even women's studies. It is something that is, yes, part of women's studies, but it includes a lot of learning from other disciplines. And that is very, very important. And once you create awareness, the next thing that gender sensitization helps you to do is that you put pressure on the university system, on the college system, on your department, on your in your family, in wherever you work, in some other place that you work, to bring in changes about gender equality. See, that is why I'm constantly saying that you are the agent. You have to consider yourself as an agent of change. And that change begins with first questioning, critically questioning your own beliefs, your own attitudes, and then saying, okay, I think one needs to now, this awareness has to be now translated into action at the level of the family, at the level of your department, your college, your, whatever, college groups, and then, maybe also in a workplace that you are in. So this is very important. One is understanding that some of the attitudes you have internalized, incorporated, thought they are the normal, right attitudes are now not so right. Second, then doing some critical self-introspection. Do I need to change some of this? Third is then actually doing that change first to yourself as an individual, and then within the level of the family, institute, college, etc., etc. Okay. Now, another way of doing gender sensitization, and then I will stop and we can take a break for 10 minutes. I'll just finish this little bit and then I'll stop. Another way of doing gender sensitization is a very important space is the classroom. Now, most of us who are teachers, we know that every classroom has a certain geography, in the sense that there will be certain chairs, certain rows, certain columns where the girls will sit, and there will be another set of chairs, rows, whatever, where there are clear segregated divides that we find in our classrooms. Again, this is something which has come because of patriarchy, because girls are told, you have to be quiet, stick together, don't mix, don't this, don't do that. So we do find that both boys and girls as students have also internalized this. And every classroom has a very segregated kind of sitting arrangement, which is changing. If you come to our university, which is a central university and which is postgraduate, it's not undergraduate, you may find that, no, it doesn't work. Now girls and boys are mixing, they are sitting, they decide where they want to sit. Okay. But I'm talking about generalized, patterns. Most classrooms continue to be very segregated. And I think while if you're okay with segregation, I don't see it as a problem. But what I want to understand is, why is the segregation there? That is important. Let the segregation continue, that's up to you and up to the students. But we as teachers need to understand that segregation is a segregation out of years of being told of anxiety, of fear, of whatever, that, the girls sit at one end and the boys will sit at one end. So in gender sensitization, one of the things that is usually advised or suggested is to have mixed classrooms. Mix up your classrooms. So once you talk to students about gender issues, about patriarchy, about bias, about discrimination, about gender roles, stereotyping, then you say that maybe there should be a healthy mix within a classroom. Okay, that's one thing. Second is, one has to start more discussions within a classroom on gender related issues, whether it is dowry, whether it is a love marriage, whether it is, girls being pressurized into marriage after finishing their undergrad, or whether it is a girl wanting a career but not having the courage to tell at home that, she would like to work, whether it is about rape, whether it is about sexual harassment. This culture of silence that we had on many of these issues, which we kept covered. They were all hidden, covered, and we thought they did not exist. But they did exist. They were there. They were just covered. What I'm suggesting and what today gender sensitization is suggesting is, please bring it out from the cupboards, from the closet, from the drawers, and into the open classroom debates, talk about it. And that is one way of addressing it. Now, in India, in textbooks at the school level, we are talking about sex education. We never talked about it when I was in school, or even when you were in school. This was not part of our syllabus, I think. But today, why are we talking about it? Because if we know what is what, we may then be more sensitive, more understanding, and more respectful of the other. And I think that is what gender sensitization is aiming at. Okay, maybe I'll stop here, Tessin, for about 10 minutes. You're muted. Tessin, you're muted. Usko unmute.
Now you can hear me?
Yeah. Tell me.
So now we'll take a break. After 10 minutes, they should come and join. Participants, please take 10 minutes break or 15 minutes break and come back as soon as you complete your tea. Okay, ma'am.
Okay, all of you go have your tea and whatever, take some rest and come back. All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Actually, it should go on very well. With a big screen, system should be there. The audible sound should be there. Listening, but there are so many buttons. But that has to be installed now, right? The screen is there.
Lakshmi? क्या हो रहा है यूनिवर्सिटी में?
मैडम से रहमतुल्लाह की झगड़े चलेंगे। रहमतुल्लाह की जॉब प्रोसेस को बताता है।
क्या?
तो रिजल्ट के बाद में पकड़ने वाले हैं। रहमतुल्लाह का लफड़ा है। रहमतुल्लाह का लफड़ा है। बाकी केस को प्रोसेस करना चाह रहे हैं।
कौन से केस?
बाकी का सस्पेंशन हुआ था नहीं।
बाकी
वो इसी अप्रूव नहीं किया। आयोग that was to conduct करके दिया गया। रहमतुल्लाह कई सिंचन मैडम करने दिए जा रहा है। असलम मना कर दिया। मैं तुम्हारा वो चांस कर रही हूँ जो करना है करो। माल लेकिन क्यों गया? उनको मतलब ये तो हर्षित। अब देखिए, blindly sign करते थे। तो some proper inquiry takes place. All of them will be given the mark. Who is responsible? And there is a possibility that Rahmatullah may forego pension. He may not forego. He may forfeit his pensionary benefits. Gratuity and all that. Because he spent blindly on financial matters. Who will be responsible, madam? Signature blindly do whatever you want power you cannot do like this. Was illegal. I spoke properly. My child instructed the administration to do this. Chancellor wrote, Chairman Kamal wrote. Finally, they have carried out. मेरे साथ कई लोगों का भी हुआ, and they are also angry to me. मगर हर gentleman, सुजात करता है, सुजात करता है, सुजात करने वाले चांसलर हमारे बॉस ये गद्दारी नहीं होना चाहिए, नमक काम नहीं होना चाहिए. These are the race we see. Final assembly. And the पल्ला भारी है. He has also developed a huge contact. अब इसको क्या हमें final assembly से बात करना पड़ता है. Morality. And for heavy weight. Heavy weight नहीं ये actually support भी है. Heavy weight करना है. और बड़े लोगों को disqualify करवाने की समझती है. बड़े लोग मतलब प्लानिंग कमीशन उनको कैसे लोग ये बहुत कुछ इंटेलिजेंस एजेंसीज अब उनके साथ तो
शादी का क्या हुआ?
शादी has to either they made all illegal appointments to make it to do this सब में बन जाएगा. There are I don't know if you know the thing. I fear for my life and my children will go threaten me every time if I don't do. That's why I had to do this because my family was funny. ऐसा बोला तो मैं बच जाता. मैं तो नहीं.
अरे कुछ करते ही नहीं. कैश का तो कुछ नहीं करते.
कैश का तो नहीं कर रहे. मैडम आप ये लोग रहम करने वाले नहीं. आपको तो मालूम है. 5, 6, 8 साल से देख रहे हैं. आपका नहीं कर रहे. सब तो कर रहे हैं. सब लड्डू खा रहे हैं. हाँ. अब अल्लाह आपके साथ तो बड़ा आदमी आएगा वो भी करेगा करेगा
को 10 days 8 days की चाहिए अपना मैडम को 8 days है 10 days है लक्ष्मी ये बंदे को बता की आवाज से और मुझसे ही ना तो ये तो हो गया कंटेंट पर
इसका हो गया
पूरा बना दीजिए
आपके लिए हमारे लिए सबके लिए
बुला लीजिए तो बुला लीजिए
बुला भी लीजिए
नहीं तो नेक्स्ट इनॉग्रल में बुला लेंगे
अभी बात करना
नहीं
आप दोनों बात करेंगे
मैं कहीं तो करेंगे भाई
महंगा पड़ेगा उसको तो मालूम लग रही है
बेकार की करती हूँ अरे मेरा टाइम को बोलो ना मेरा टैक्स का करना मैडम का टैक्स का 8-9 डेज से वैसे साजिद ने कहा बोला नाम मत बोलो
नाम से ही बोलो
तो मेरा नाम से तो बोलो
वो Sensitization हो रहा है डिस्कशन हो रहा है इधर दस्तार से सब लोग खा रहे हैं तो जवाब बोलो
पहले तो सिर्फ ऐसे बोलते हम बोलते हैं
बोलता हूँ आज आपका बाखुदा बोलता हूँ और आपको नंबर देता हूँ अभी मैं आपको नंबर दे दूँगा
मेरे को दिए तुम नंबर है
आप मुझसे बात कर लीजिए सर मैंने
नहीं तो मेरे पास बात
Should we start?
Yeah, ma'am, we'll start.
Okay, are we all back?
Participants, are you there?
All right.
Okay, ma'am, we'll start.
Everyone is back from their
Yeah,
break.
almost.
All right. I was just looking at some of the questions that had come in the messages,
Okay.
you know,
okay.
so that I can respond to it in the 20 minutes at the end
Last
also.
20 minutes, we'll keep question answer, ma'am.
Yeah.
That you can clear.
Okay.
Okay, ma'am, please start.
All right. So when we were talking about gender sensitization in the classrooms. And like I've been telling you, over the last 1 hour, the classroom and our role as teachers is very, very critical in introducing gender sensitization. We have a very important role. Let us be aware of it and let us use that role effectively and more, what should I say, in a more sensitive way. All right. Now, in educational institutions, how can one do gender sensitization? Okay. So, of course, the easiest thing to do, everyone will say, is have courses. Have courses on gender. But I don't know about your colleges, but one finds that most centers for women's studies or courses on women or gender are largely seen as by women for women. So I think the whole purpose of gender sensitization gets defeated if we have only women teaching, women offering, women taking those courses. More than, women studies courses, they have to be open to everybody. One would like to see that there are as many boys in a gender studies course as there are girls. Because like I have been telling you, I began with the first quotation, which says, we've taught our daughters to be like sons, but we have forgotten to tell our sons that it's as important to have qualities of a daughter. So I think somewhere, if we leave boys, young men out of this whole gender sensitization process, we are actually, we are failing. There will be no gender sensitization. So for me, proper gender sensitization means that participants are both men and women. And I'm happy that in this particular course today, I'm seeing that there are a lot of men. I don't know, whatever be your personal reason for doing this course, I'm not going into that. But for me, at least, I'm happy that for whatever reasons of your own, you have accepted voluntarily to be part of a course on gender sensitization. And that is important. So maybe after a week from listening to all of us bombarding you with, all these issues about gender, even if 10% of you think about them, go back, reflect on them, it will be some success for us. So this is not a course where you just come, okay, have a good time and go back. No, it's a course that we are expecting you to, as senior teachers, as young teachers, as change agents, to please play your role more constructively. That's an appeal from us, from me at least personally. Okay. So one way of doing gender sensitization is through women's studies courses. But those courses have to be open to students across your college. They should not be only for arts, only for social sciences. They should be open and compulsory for all students from science, commerce, law, social science, and languages. Like, for example, environmental studies at the undergrad level is compulsory for all students. If you don't, whether you are from science or commerce or whatever stream, you have to do environmental studies. Similarly, I think a course on gender sensitization should be a compulsory part of the curriculum at the undergraduate or BSc level, BCom also. Okay, the second way of doing gender sensitization is by encouraging your students, both men, boys and girls, not just girls, okay, both boys and girls, to have debates, discussions, talks, plays, drama, dance performances, ballets, all with a theme around gender, you know. So these are ways in which you open out, you get a larger audience, and you get people to read, think, and debate and discuss. So this is one. The academic way of doing it would be through workshops, lectures, series of talks, and through seminars that you can organize at the level of your college and university. The third reason, third way of doing gender sensitization is to have orientation programs. Now, orientation programs have to be at the beginning when the college or university reopens. Every year for 1 week, you orient all your new students who join to kind of reading, discussing, introducing concepts on gender, telling them what is sexual harassment, why is it wrong, why it should not be done, etc., etc. And putting up banners and posters which tell us that sexual harassment is wrong. And what is sexual harassment? Very clearly put it up in regional languages, not just in English, okay? So it could be in Marathi, it could be in Kannada, it could be in Telugu, it could be in Hindi, it could be in Odia, whatever. And one more way of doing gender sensitization is that you have to have, and this is of course now mandated by UGC, you have to have an internal complaints committee in your college, at your college level, which has to be functional. It cannot be just in name. It has to be functional. And this is something that, you know, you will encourage students to report if there is any complaint. It could be, you can have drop boxes in your college where students, if somebody has a complaint, they can just drop a chit without, you know, revealing who they are, but that their name has to be there at the end of the chit. Okay, so this is one way of giving students who have a grievance a platform to address that grievance or that complaint. And I think this is again very, very important. We all think that oh no, there's nothing happening, there is no you know, there are no gender complaints, there's no harassment. But once you realize that there is a committee, that these are issues that are there but people don't want to talk about, and I think we have to encourage people not to silently accept harassment, but to come out, and that's the only way we will stop harassment. Otherwise, if this culture of silence about harassment continues, then you will not change anything. You know, if everything continues the same way. You have to question certain attitudes and tell people what they are doing is wrong. And I'll talk about that a little later when I give you one or two case studies of sexual harassment. And the last way of doing gender sensitization in a very interesting way is you know, a book that the Telangana government commissioned, asked a women's studies organization to write a bilingual book on gender. The book is called Towards a World of Equals. And I will just, show you a photograph of that book so that you can buy it. It's available. Can you see this?
Yes.
Okay. Now, this is a book that is in both Telugu and English. And if you have seen the cover page, it addresses questions on gender in a very, very interesting way that relates to people, that relates to young people. So it uses movies like Should They See Romance? It will use some Telugu movie. It will use some advertisement, and or it will use the Nirbhaya case, something like. So all of this is very innovatively discussed. And this book is now a compulsory textbook for all undergrad students in Telangana. So the state government has made it compulsory, whether you're in engineering college or you're in commerce or you're in arts or wherever, this is a textbook now that you have to study. And there are lots of questions and project works, things, team work, that group projects that are given at the end. And I think this is a book that maybe if some of you can translate it into your, Marathi or Kannada or whatever, languages you come, whichever regions you come from, this book is a very useful textbook for undergrad gender studies and gender sensitization. Okay. It's called Towards a World of Equals. All right. And it is available. It's available. It's not a very expensive book also. Okay, now, I thought I will share with you one or two case studies on gender sensitization, on sexual harassment and gender sensitization that we did in our university. Some of the lessons that we learned as part of this gender sensitization program that we have in our university, it was called earlier Committee Against Sexual Harassment. Now it is called ICC, Internal Complaints Committee. All right. So one of the things we learned was that attitudes that children, young students have grown up with, have lived with, have seen in their homes, villages, towns, community, they bring those attitudes into the university or the college. Now, at the university, at least our university, we are telling them, posters are there which are telling them sexual harassment is wrong. It is this. So very often we've had cases where girls have complained that, the so-and-so boy is sexually harassing me. So when you talk and find out about what is the case all about, you realize that the whole problem is about our socialization, about how we have internalized patriarchal structures as normal. So, for example, there is a movie show happening in the auditorium, and when the hero wins the girl, or when he's whistling at the girl, the heroine, there's a lot of claps and all from the audience. So many girls protested and said, this is sexual harassment. How are they enjoying something in which the hero is actually troubling the girl. And so when, such instances come to us, how does one understand it? How does one deal with it? Do you see it as black and white, right and wrong? Okay, this is wrong, finished, you'll be punished. Or does one try to understand the context, the background, the socialization, and then see that, lot of us have grown up on a diet of films, whether they are Hindi, Bollywood films or regional films, in which this is seen as normal, that the hero will run after a girl after 5 days. If for first day she'll refuse, she'll scold him. Second day, by third day, fourth day, fifth day, they're singing a song in some park or garden or somewhere or something. So if this kind of stereotypical behavior is seen as normal, and that is what all our young children, our young students have internalized. So we had to actually not punish them while we told them what the boys did was wrong. But we had to tell the boys that, see, you may be, they thought what they did was not wrong. They're saying, what did we do? We just, we borrowed CTs. We were whistling when the, hero got the girl, or when he was, running after the girl. So we had to tell them that that is inappropriate behavior. That is not proper behavior, because even though it's happening in a film, in real life, you cannot do that. So this was something that, it took a lot of, for us also, it was not easy, because we have not been trained to deal with these situations. So we had to think out of the box. We had to think differently. And we said, we didn't have to blame the boy. So we had to say, okay, we will not punish you, but what you did was wrong. And please do not repeat such behavior. Okay, so these are the ways in which we will have to question our own understandings, our own ideas about behavior of girls and boys. In another case, it's not a case, I'm just giving you a few examples. Some of them are from different universities also. In some other university, a boy was, he liked a girl. Okay, and he never expressed it. They were in the same class. He was too shy to say anything to her. And when she was going home for the vacation, at the station, he also went to the station. And when she was waiting for the train to come, he just went to her and told her, hello, this, that. And then he said, okay, I like you. So the girl felt very offended. And she said, I'm not at all interested in you, and please just leave me alone. So he went off. He just went off. What happened was, 2-3 other friends of this girl came, who were also going home, and she told them that this happened. So they got very agitated, and the typical protective males that you have. So they went running, looking for this fellow, and he was just going out of the station. And they were all classmates anyway. So they caught him and they thrashed him. And this became a big issue in a particular university. That so she gave a sexual harassment case. He gave a complaint that he was beaten up by students, boy students. And then finally, how does one read this? How does one address this? How does one understand this particular situation? And it was very interesting, because I think, finally what was decided was, it was not a case of sexual harassment, because this boy has never bothered the girl in class or before. He just went to the station to tell her. When she said no, he quietly left. His behavior may have been inappropriate or unwanted for her, but the minute she said no, he went off. So if he had continued to pressurize her or to, stalk her or bully her or whatever, it would have definitely been sexual harassment. So somewhere then, while we all agree, I'm not saying what the boy did was totally right or totally wrong. I'm saying it is difficult in some of these cases because of our history of patriarchy, our history of socialization, our history of the kind of attitudes that we have internalized as correct behavior, that you cannot just, say right and wrong or black and white. There are shades of gray in between. And I think that is the biggest challenge for us teachers. How do we try to be fair to all genders without compromising our notions of right and wrong? And I think that is not easy. Each one of us will have a different opinion. You may, on this particular two issues, all of you may have a different opinion. Some of you may agree with me. Some of you may say, no, it's not. It was definitely sexual harassment. How could you not deal with it like that? Or, how or why it was not sexual harassment, whatever it is. So I think as teachers, the challenge for us is not to punish. I think the easiest solution in any such matter is to punish. Okay, you're wrong, this is your punishment. But I think we are not the police. We are not the judiciary. We are teachers. Please remember, as teachers, the responsibility on us is to shape our future generations. And that shaping has to be done in a very sensitive manner. We have to understand context, background. Someone coming from a different area where gender relations are very free may behave very differently than someone who comes from an area where feudalism is still very, very accepted, legal, normal. So we have to change these young minds, not by punishing them. Punishing is, the easiest solution to such problems. But that means you have actually just punished, and your problem as a teacher is over, you think. But I think changing of minds, changing attitudes is a more ongoing, long-term, difficult, challenging task. It's not easy, may I tell you. It takes a lot out of each one of us. But at the end of it, I think if we have chosen to be teachers, we have a certain responsibility that we have to perform. We are not the police. The police can punish, the judiciary can punish, someone else can punish. But as teachers, we can say, yes, you were wrong. What you did was not correct. But try to understand why somebody did something that was wrong, and how does one try to change and make a better individual out of a person, whether it's a girl or a boy or another gender or whatever. So I think that is something that is not easy, but that is something that we should all be working towards. So these were two incidents that I wanted to share with you about our university and some other universities that we have over the years discussed when we talk about sexual harassment, when we talk about gender sensitization on campus. And often, I also work with women's groups. So there are many times when on such issues, I am blamed by the, women scholars that I am not a feminist, and they say, but you work for women's groups, but you're not a feminist, you're not blaming the, the boy. And I say, that's not my job to blame. I'm trying to understand first why such behavior happened and how does one change that behavior. So, so that's remember what I began with. This is not about, the same thing can happen in a reverse way also, where sometimes you do find that there are urban elite girls who are not able to understand that friendships with rural boys can be misunderstood. And so then do you blame? You don't. You try to contextualize the backgrounds and say, okay, you have to educate the girls, you have to counsel the girls that, what you think is normal behavior in your circle is not in that boy's circle. In that boy's experience, this kind of behavior, you are interested in the boy. So, it's like, I think all of us teachers at some level have to become counselors also today. This is, I mean, now, of course, with this virtual world, it will not, we take a break. But otherwise, the kind of demands that are coming, on for us as teachers to deal with are not easy. And I think some amount of preparation for all of you would be attending more gender sensitization courses and reading a little more on gender issues. And I think that is very, very important. Okay, now I want to sort of talk a little bit and then I'll conclude and maybe we can have a more interesting discussion. So what have we been talking about? Let me try to pull it all together. Okay. The first is that there is gender inequality. Let us accept. It still continues to be a man's world. Okay. So, and that is there. If you look at the data, if you look at data on rape, on dowry, on domestic violence, on child abuse, all of which is telling you very, very clearly that it still continues to be a man's world. Okay. The second thing that we talked about is that, yes, but things are changing, but very, very slowly. Okay. They may have changed faster in the West, but in India, they are changing very slowly. And they are changing very slowly because of the very tight, rigid control of patriarchy. So, and patriarchy is not uniform. It varies from region to region, from caste to caste, from urban to rural, from northeast to northwest, from religion, so we have to understand everywhere patriarchy exists, but the degree of patriarchy varies. And the most, I don't know how many of you know, but in India, the most equal, I'm not saying they are equal, but the most equal gender relations, at least between men and women, are with communities that we think are, within quotes, not very developed. These are all your Adivasi communities who have a far more fairer sense, a more egalitarian gender relations than us, who are more civilized, who are more educated, who are more developed, who are more modern. If you look at the Northeast, you look at Central Indian Adivasi belt, and you look at all the Eastern Ghats and the Western Ghats, all these Adivasi regions, Bastar, all of these are regions where gender relations are better between men and women, girls and boys, than they are in among us, you know. So this is something that we also have to understand, that patriarchy is there, but it doesn't operate in the same way across all sectors. Some of us have more, what we can fight patriarchy better. Some poor rural Dalit women, other women cannot. In fact, and so we have to understand how caste and other social stratifications operate on patriarchy. Third thing is, one, gender inequality exists. Two, patriarchy continues to rule. Three is that there have been changes, and one of the biggest triggers was 2012, the Nirbhaya case. And after that, the government, particularly both central and state government, have tried to address the whole question of gender inequality in ways that with acts, with some laws, with some policies, but these are, they take a long time to take off. The other way of addressing some amount of gender inequality, largely economic, is through the women's empowerment programs. Most of them were largely addressed or talking about only economic inequality, and they did not address more structural inequalities like patriarchy, or they did not question much of that. Okay. The next thing that we need to remember is that gender sensitization from 2012 has become mandated in universities as part of the UGC guidelines. And after the Saksham report, which clearly went around the country, visited a lot of colleges and universities, and found that yes, there is a lot of underreporting, there is a culture of silence over a lot of issues that are linked to sexual harassment, gender violence, etc., etc. So after 2012, after 2013, when the Vishakha guidelines and the Sexual Harassment Act came, we have now in colleges, in universities, started at least accepting that, okay, this is an issue. Till then we thought, nothing is there. No, we are fine, all happy, everybody is happy. Okay, no complaint means nothing is there. That's our attitude. So this Vishakha guidelines and the Sexual Harassment Act was a very important, change in terms of at least addressing or bringing into the open issues of harassment and violence, gender violence. Okay, and that brought then that have gender sensitization. So gender sensitization became a kind of an ongoing program at colleges, universities, other workplaces. So today across government, corporate, educational institutions, everywhere, gender sensitization has become part of their annual activity. Okay. Now, whether it's taken seriously or not is another question. Like, International Women's Day, we all celebrate March 8th and we all feel good on March 8th. Oh, women will do this, women. And then after 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, we've forgotten what happened on 8th, isn't it? So this is something that it should not become just tokenism, gender sensitization. One is hoping it is not a one day, one off thing. It has to be a continuous, ongoing program so that we keep on addressing it, we keep on encountering it, we keep on accepting that, yes, this is what we set out to do and what we have achieved and what more needs to be done. I think that is important. All right. One good outcome on gender sensitization has been the Tatas have started one Jagore program, which is, they are funding compulsory gender sensitization orientations in schools across India, particularly, government schools. And I think that is something that we hope, because whatever we say, we need to recognize that any gender differences or inequalities begin from home. So it is our role as parents also to see that we do not distinguish, we do not differentiate, we teach the same good values, the good values of gentleness, caring, obedience, sharing the work, etc., to both the son and the daughters. It cannot be that only certain burdens and roles are passed on to the daughter and not to the son. So any gender sensitization program succeed only if, one, it begins at home with us parents taking a lead role, and two, only if men become part of this program. This is gender sensitization is not for women, by women, to women. It is for all of us. Please remember that. I'm constantly emphasizing. More men should speak out. More men should talk about their experiences and clarify doubts if they have any about, why they think that, there are problems, or what they think as, question marks that they have faced when we talk of gender sensitization. I think the culture of silence on gender has moved from women to men. Now, men are hardly opening their mouths. When we talk, or if they open, they are, they're going back to the same set of attitudes and beliefs that we are constantly trying to change. So, if you have voluntarily accepted to be part of a gender sensitization course, and if you have voluntarily accepted, I'm very happy about it. In fact, I compliment the men more than the women for accepting a course like this. It's not easy for you, I know, but to take the full gain of a course like this, you have to also participate in it more wholeheartedly. It's not just about, coming, sitting, listening, and then going back. We would like to hear your problems, hear your views, and address them if we can. Okay, so in my 20 minutes, I do want more men to talk than women. Please, so keep your questions ready for me at the end of my 20 minutes. Okay. Okay, and the last thing that I want to re-emphasize, which I also started with, is that today when we talk about gender, it is not just men and women, or it is about all genders. Gender today is a spectrum, is like, you have men, women, all the other LGBT, all of them. So please be sensitive to all genders. I think the time has now come to accept, appreciate the struggle that other genders have gone through, are going through, the stigma associated with them, And I think women also have to be far more sensitive to other genders. I'm sorry, I don't find a lot of women who are very, who recognize the problem of women as a gender, but are not willing to recognize as easily the problems of other genders, including men. Okay, so this is something that we all also have to now open our minds to. Finally, I will just end with some things that you can think about. These are all qualities that men and women should have, which are now being questioned. Okay, but to all of us, these qualities are seen as very normal. We just accept them uncritically and think this is how we have to behave. Children are more attached to the mother. We just accept it. And I have serious problems with this. I find, there are, fathers who are children are attached to them. So why are we saying only children are attached to mothers? But this has become, because of our role as nurturing caregivers, we feel that children are more attached to the mother. Second, men do not show or should not show any emotions, particularly crying. Men should not cry. And I think the men have to answer this. How many of our men in this class today have wanted to cry but could not cry because it was not expected behavior of them? Okay. Most scientists are men. Most mathematicians are men. And right now, next week, I think the movie on Shakuntala Devi is going to be released. And so some of these things so it is true that most scientists are men and most mathematicians are women. The question for us is why? All these questions have a why. Why should men not show emotions and cry? Why? Why are children more attached to the mother? Why? Okay. Then men do not need tenderness and are less sensitive. Again, personally, I don't agree on this. I think men are very sensitive on a lot of issues, and I found many women who are not sensitive on the same issues. So, but the norm, the kind of narrative that we have, popular narrative says most men do not need tenderness and are less sensitive. It is a generalization, yes, but why? Most drivers are men, yes, but why? Again, why? The minute on the roads we see one woman driver who either is a bit nervous or goes off a little too fast without showing an indicator, how many of us have said, oh God, this driver is a rash driver? We don't say that. We say, hey, this woman is a rash driver. Why does the gender there become so important? When a man does the same thing, we don't say this man is, we just say this driver is mad or is rash. But when it comes to women, somehow their gender becomes so central. And I think that is a question for us to ask. Okay, why are women scared of working late at office and going home late after 9:30, 10 o'clock? Which is a fact, but why? Why are they so scared? Why are they scared to be alone at night in public places? Why is it generally understood and accepted that women care for elders and men do not? Again, I find this is not true from my own personal experience. And lastly, this is something that, we have all accepted and said, yeah, this is correct. That women are emotional and men are rational. That, men don't have emotions and women, they are not rational beings. Why can it be not that both are emotional and both are rational? I think emotions are not just the private property of women, and neither is rationality the private property of men. So I think these are certain questions I want to leave you with, so that I mean, now I won't say you take home, but while you're at home, you think about it, and maybe if it's useful in your own self introspection, then I think the purpose of this particular course and this particular lecture would be served. Okay, so thank you, and let me now open it out for discussions. There have been a few, what should I say? Let me just look at it again. A few questions that have been there in the messages, and I want to address some of them. One question was, how is gang rape and what is it, collective rape different? Now, I'm not so sure about collective rape. I've not really heard that term myself. But gang rape is when more than one man rapes the same woman. That is called gang rape. Okay. Collective rape, I don't know if it means that, there are 2-3 women and, they're all getting raped. That could be collective rape. But gang rape is one woman and multiple men. Okay. Someone also asked that, marginalized women have different issues. And I totally agree. Not just marginalized, I feel women of different religions, women of different castes. In fact, sometimes I think some studies have shown that while patriarchy exists among the, among the marginalized sections, it is far more, what should I say, far more rigid among the middle classes. So we are not sure. We need far more studies on this. But yes, the problems of marginalized, the problems of different caste groups, the problems of different religious groups, there are differences. I'm totally in agreement with you on this. And that is what we need to understand. How do we understand that gender sensitization is not a universal medicine pill that you just pop in and you are gender sensitized? No, in India it doesn't work like that. You have to understand that gender sensitization is different for different categories of men and women and different regions also. Okay. Another question was, I think it was a comment that asking date for the first time is sexual harassment. I think this can be debated. This is my personal opinion that I feel first time when you ask someone for a date, I would not see it as personally. I'm not talking in legalistic terms. I'm talking in my personal take. Because for me, you're young at that age. You may just like someone and you say, I'd like to go out with you. And if that person says, no, I'm not interested, you have to respect that no. And then as long as it's not a devious, you've called her to some shady corner and given some false pretenses, and there is a whole intention of forcing her to go on a date, that is absolutely no. But supposing, for the first time you just say, can I, would you like to go out for tea with me? And the person says no, that's fine. If it is left at that, I would personally not see it as sexual harassment. Okay. Otherwise, then, you know, we will not be able to socially interact with each other, you know. I mean, it will create a lot of lack of trust and faith in ourselves. Okay. There was a question on language stereotype. Absolutely, you know, the words we use, the way, like, let me give you an example. You know, when we talk of a home breaker, what is the gender of a home breaker? Can anyone tell me? When you, I'm not, I mean, I'm saying generally when, you know, there is a reporting that so-and-so is a home breaker. Usually, what is the image? What is the gender that comes to your mind?
It's usually perceived to be a woman.
Exactly. So this is what I want the men to answer also. When you say, when you in your conversation or in your, you know, when you're gossiping, oh, you know, uska ghar toot gaya, it is always.
Yeah, it is attributed to women.
Say that again. I didn't hear you.
It is generally attributed to women.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So that's, you know, so homemaker is also woman. Let's be, I mean, so, but a home breaker, why is it always a woman? You know, 9 out of or 8 out of 10 could be the, but the home breaker is always seen as woman. Okay. Okay. Now let me see if there are any more questions here. Yeah, asking a married woman or someone for a date is a absolute harassment. Agreed. I was talking more about campus environment. I agree with you. Okay, somebody is saying, asking, GB Lokeshwar Reddy, how patriarchal power is manifested in universities, higher education, and other social institutions. Okay, how many vice chancellors do you know who are women? How many universities do we have in India? And how many vice chancellors are women? How many women scientists are heading CSIR laboratories? Okay, I mean, I'm not saying that there are no, of course there are few women, but these are all evidence of patriarchal power. That power gets, as you move up the ladder, academic ladder, you will find that the number of women get left behind, they become fewer, and there are more as you go to higher positions, there are more and more men. This is true of any institution. Why is it now that even corporate board of directors, there is a quota now of some companies to have at least 3 women on the board, because there were never any women on the board. Yeah, it is about changing mindset. Okay.
Madam.
Yeah, coming. One sec.
Nowadays, governments also issuing notifications stating that the selection should be 50-50. That precaution is taken.
Yeah, no, that what election should be 50-50?
No, election selection for jobs.
Okay. Yeah.
While selecting candidates, care should be taken that it should be in equal ratio. That was there in the notifications.
Preferably. It's still not. It's preferably. And see, I'm not one of those who's saying that, you know, you start one anti-men crusade. No, I'm saying if there is a position and there are two contenders, one a man and a woman, and the woman is on all, you know, her credentials are better than the man, then the job should go to the best candidate. Whether it's a man or woman is immaterial.
Yes.
That's my position. Okay, but very often that does not happen. When a woman goes for an interview, she's asked, are you married? Do you have children? If she says yes, then they say, do you have children? Then how will you be able to, you know, give time to this? Men are not asked these questions. That is again showing how patriarchy operates. You know, lot of personal questions are asked to women. If you go for an interview now and you wear a mask, a man is never told, remove your mask, I want to see your face. But many young women are asked, remove your mask, we want to see your face. And they go for these, you know, lower, you know, younger women who go for posts. What has her face got to do with it? You're employing her for her face or for her other academic qualities. So these are the problems that, you know, where patriarchy continues to be very, very, very difficult to get rid of. And universities and colleges are better than many other institutions, because we think we teachers are more progressive, more liberated, more literate, more aware. Okay. Anyone?
Ma'am, I just want to ask, or I would like to add something to it, because I have been a part, you know, of this kind of thing which happened in my university and was quite instrumental in helping the victim. What I found in that particular case itself, that you know, we don't find many of the people, many of the colleagues willing to state the matter, willing to support and substantiate that case, because of which, you know, because before the committee, you need to prove that you have been sexually harassed, and it becomes really, really difficult. And for the lack of the witnesses and maybe the evidences which need to be produced before the before that committee, it really becomes very difficult to prove your case. In that case, I would suggest that what are the securities available to the witnesses, that should also be spread amongst the faculty members and all the people in the university, because of which the victim, the witnesses, they don't come forward. Because I was knowing the law, and I told I gave in writing that I don't want my statement should be given to the accused. And because there is a protection provided in the law, and people, they really do not have an idea about that kind of protection which is given to the witnesses. I think that word should also be spreaded regarding this thing, that if the matter is reported, you know, we can prevent this thing, because unless you find those witnesses, you will fail in the case, right? You'll fail to prove that you have been sexually harassed, and the matter will continue with the other people as well. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Yeah, no, absolutely. See, that is why if you read the Sexual Harassment Act guidelines, very clearly they tell you the confidentiality is so important. See, no names. You should not be even taking the names, except that committee. No one else should know about who is the accused and who is the, you know, victim. So, and witnesses also, whatever they say, it is all under confidence. It is not at all in the public domain. So this is something that, you know, at least we have followed it. We have see, so what we do after such, you know, we have tried to do is, to educate, exactly to address the point that you're saying, we put out a little poster and stick it all around without any names. We say that, in a particular case, the, witnesses did not come because they were scared, they were this, or they were pressured, or they felt threatened, etc., etc. So they should not feel. So this is one way of educating and creating awareness. It's not easy. We are seeing what's happening in the outside domain, no? How many people, get harassed, and half the time when they're being taken to court only, they're shot and
Yes.
killed.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. There are actually the practical difficulties in implementation of that, or that's the major thing. I have felt it personally. Even if the people are willing, they don't come forward to support the victim. And for that thing, we have provision in Right to Information Act where all the information is to be kept as the confidential thing. Even if the Sexual Harassment Act doesn't speak anything about it, there is a Right to Information Act in which what information can be disclosed. So such kind of information, it has to be kept confidential if the witness doesn't want that to be shared with anyone.
Yeah, absolutely. So see, the problem while people don't come is again something that we hope through gender sensitization, some of these hesitancies, some of these ignorance, some of this wrong knowledge or information will be addressed. So it's only, you have to constantly keep chipping away at the mindsets of people which is not their fault. This is the mindset that has been handed over to both men, women, and everyone else through centuries of patriarchy. No, so it's not easy. Some of us have managed to change because of our reading, our personal experiences, our questioning, our critical thinking, but it's not easy, so I think that is why I feel that gender sensitization workshops and both men and women being part of it, that is very important. And men have to feel accepted. Men have to own gender sensitization workshops. There has to be a sense of ownership that ye bhi mera problem hai. ये सिर्फ औरतों का प्रॉब्लम नहीं है. That attitude has to go. If you anyway, can I have some more men speaking, please? Let me see if there are any questions from men. Okay. So Professor Baliram Pawar, you are saying why Indian law cannot reduce domestic violence on women. Can I just see where is I'm not able to see all the faces actually. I think there's a problem with my Zoom. Who's Professor Baliram Pawar? Okay, he's there, I suppose, somewhere. I think your question is, the answer is there in your question only. Why is it that, why do we expect how much can a court or a government do? These are not, I mean, the laws are good. We have some of the best laws in the world. But how many cases of domestic violence first get reported? Second, reach a court. At first, most women will not report domestic violence because they have also internalized it and think, ये हमारी किस्मत है, ऐसे तो होता ही है, पीटता है, ठीक है, बर्दाश्त करना है, औरतों को बर्दाश्त करना, ठीक है. Then after that, even if a woman goes and complains in a police station, how is she counseled? If you've seen family courts or police stations, they'll be saying, पुलिस will also tell her, अरे इसमें क्या FIR फाइल करोगी, वो तो पी के पीट दिया होगा, ये तो होता ही रहता है, पूरा फैमिली संसार बर्बाद करोगे, बच्चों का क्या होगा. All this will be told to her. And you think after that women will be able to take the next critical step ahead and go and file in the court? So law can be there, but understand what it involves to invoke a law. So it's not easy. A lot of these women are women who have no financial independence. There are children to be thought of. What will happen? Their families, their parental families will not support them because they are also tuned to patriarchy ना, कि बेटी के शादी हो गया, तुम्हारा घर वहीं है, तुम्हारा दुनिया वही है, जो भी होगा उधर ही रहना. Okay, so so instead of saying why, you ask the question why, but yourself try to reason why it is not happening.
Ma'am, moreover, law is not just the solution to it. It's the change of the mindsets that will help, solving these problems. That's the major reason. Laws are there to protect your rights. But unless and until we change our mindsets, law cannot come for our rescue. That's for very clear.
Yeah. Law is not, law is your last resort for help.
Yes.
But
yes.
you have, see, the person, like supposing there is a case of domestic violence, okay, between a young couple who's not very well off. And you say, okay, he's beating you every day, fine, just leave him, divorce. That's not a solution for 90% of our women and men. Because after that, what? Will her family take her back? They won't. So unless all those structures have changed, unless you've made women financially independent, given them some decision-making abilities, how will she be able to handle the crisis? This is a bigger crisis than her, maybe her husband beating her. So we have to understand, see, the context of a Western woman violence and the context of Indian women and domestic violence is very different. And an upper class woman can say, yes, I'm walking out of a marriage. But I don't think that kind of an option is available to many of our lower marginalized sections. It's not, I don't think it's an option. So choice and options are, they are very, they have very different meanings for you and me and for, a poor marginalized couple. Okay, we still have some time. I can, what about, I can see Miraj Ahmed, I can see Ajit, Ashte, Lakshmi Kant, Shiroli. You have no questions? Paul, Jiva Singh.
Ma'am, I have a question, which is, can I ask you now?
Yeah, this is Miraj Ahmed.
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Sure.
Ma'am, I think the entire issue of this gender sensitization has to be done through the mode of popular culture, because my specialization area happens to be cinema. And if you have watched Hindi films of the 1950s and the 60s, particularly the 1960s, you will see Shammi Kapoor. Maybe if you haven't watched film, I have watched a lot of films of the 1960s. You will see stars.
What are you saying you haven't watched?
So I'll just give you a few examples. If you watch a film like Teesri Manzil, you will see Shammi Kapoor harassing Asha Parekh. There are a lot of these are a lot of situations which have more or less legalized this kind of behavior by men. The popular culture is equally responsible for this.
Absolutely. I agree. That's what I told you, no? The case study I told you about, a movie being shown in our auditorium, and there were catcalls when the hero, stalks the girl and gets her.
Exactly.
It was natural for those boys. They thought, what's wrong? We have been doing it all our lives. But
precisely the point which I've been making.
Absolutely. Hindi films and our television serials, which came, all those cave serials that came, you know, in the
Exactly.
2000s, have
Yes.
are absolutely, you know, they justify, they take all the gains of the women movement,
And
go back.
this has led, madam, what I feel is this has led to some kind of a socialization. This has led to a larger acceptance of this kind of a behavior in public domain. If you have Rajesh Khanna doing this, then I can very well do it as well.
Yeah, why not? Absolutely. Amitabh Bachchan. All.
Precisely the point.
Yeah,
If you look at a few films even by Amitabh Bachchan as well, I mean, take for example Muqaddar Ka Sikandar. There are a few scenes in which he happens to be harassing the heroine. Take for example, he's harassing a lot of films. We watched a lot of films from the 60s. This
Yeah,
is very endemic to popular culture in India.
And it is worse in the regional films also. You know,
I can vouch for that.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah. You
Absolutely.
whether you look at Telugu films, actually Malayalam films and Kannada films of the 70s and 80s were more, you know, they were more thought-provoking.
And they do. The problem is, ma'am, even they do excellent business in the box office. People actually love these kind of situations. There is a movie by which came some recent time, some time back. It starred Shahid Kapoor. Shahid, that very famous
Kapoor.
film actor. Yeah. And you realize that in that particular film, he is more or less harassing the lot of female characters in that movie, and that film went on to do some 100 crores.
Kabir Singh.
Yes, exactly.
You know, toxic.
That's
films.
a kind of a toxic masculinity which you have been talking about.
Toxic masculinity.
Anyone else who's saying that?
Hello, madam. Hello, ma'am.
Yeah, sure. Please go ahead.
Ma'am, this is Bhagalakshmi, ma'am.
Okay.
So often we used to read in a newspaper that the school-going children, they face the sexual harassment from even teachers itself, male teachers. So what do you say on these things, madam? Whenever we read on the newspapers, we felt very bad because so such things from the teacher faculty, we feel somewhere it pains us. So what do you say on these things?
See, Bhagyalakshmi.
Yes.
All types of people make this world. Okay. Now in every profession, Bhagyalakshmi, you will read about some doctors being, very mercenary after money, but there are also many doctors who, are good. This is the same of everyone except maybe politicians, who there are more bad than good, I think, in that category. But
like going high school students, they are not aware of all these things, but it's very painful.
No, that is why I think gender sensitization at starting right from the primary school level, the textbooks that we write. Why is your textbook always saying the head of the family and the father is sitting on one chair on a table and the mother is standing and serving him some food? I mean, if you have those kind of textbooks and pictures, then from a small age, you are inculcating already a power hierarchy in the child's mind. No. So we have to absolutely change. We have to change the way we, write textbooks. We have to make them more equal. Where show father cooking also one day. Mother sitting on the table. We have to become more, and it is happening. Don't say it. I've seen some new textbooks that are coming out that are extremely interesting. Where father is sweeping, mother is washing. They're sharing the work. So mother is also going to work. But if you, continue to use old textbooks and old narratives, which are also, they are the same narrative, that is the one which gets reinforced. Movies will pick it up, TV serials will pick it up, and we will have to live with it. That's all.
But most of the media people, they will highlight only teachers, madam. Compared to other professions, these media people, they will highlight if some think they will make it a big problem. Especially media, madam. They will highlight teachers.
No, see, media will highlight that category which will get it TRPs. Okay. Now everybody is in this game, you know. So actually, I feel teachers are not such an important category for media. We are not so important because we don't have that much power. They will only talk about teachers when it is admissions time. That's all. Otherwise, the media is more bothered about others, not us teachers so much.
Hello.
Yeah, who's that? Yeah, you want to say something? Who's saying hello?
हेलो मैम,
Yeah.
हिंदी में बोल सकता हूँ मैम?
हाँ, जरूर बोलिए। आपका नाम क्या है?
हाँ, मेरा नाम रेवन्नाथ काले है, बीड महाराष्ट्र से।
हाँ, ठीक है, बताइए, पूछिए।
मैडम, एक सीरियल शुरू है मराठी में, रंग माझा वेगळा इस नाम से। तो उसमें जो लड़की है वो ब्लैक है, उसकी जो सास है वो सास उसको अवॉइड करती है। वो ऐसे दिखाना चाहती है कि मुझे ऐसे कलर की लड़कियां पसंद नहीं है। तो ऐसी सीरियल दिखानी चाहिए या नहीं दिखानी चाहिए? क्योंकि ये सोशलाइजेशन के बारे में हम अगर सोचे तो ये अच्छा नहीं है। आपका इस पर क्या मत है? ओपिनियन क्या है आपका?
मैंने जो आपको बोला ना कि वो सीरियल दिखा रहा है, वो सास उसको सता रही है, उसको तंग कर रही है, उसको अवॉइड कर रही है, वो आप बोल रहे हैं दिखा रहा है। यही तो मैं बोल रही हूँ, जो पेट्रियार्की के जो वैल्यू सिस्टम्स हैं कि औरतों को खूबसूरत रहना, गोरे गोरे रहना, ऐसा रहना, वैसा रहना, वो सब औरतों ने भी, मर्द सिर्फ मेन नहीं, विमेन ने भी उसको इंटरनलाइज किया है ना। तो विमेन भी सोचते हैं कि अगर एक काली बहू है या काली बेटी है तो वो तो फिर इफ बेटी है तो इसको तो शादी कौन करेगा, इसको तो बहुत जैसे हमारे ऊपर एक बोझ बन के रह जाए। तो व्हाट आई एम सेइंग इज, जो पेट्रियार्की है, जैसे हर वक्त ये सीरियल्स में सास बहू का झगड़ा दिखाते रहते हैं, तो वो घरों में होता भी होगा, पर ये क्यों होता है? क्योंकि वो जो पेट्रियार्की का जो है ना कि बेटा मेरा है, अब वो बहू आ गई, वो मेरे बेटे को छीन के ले गई, ये सब जो भावना है ये हम सब अंदर में सोच के रख लिए। दैट इज द प्रॉब्लम। मैं ये नहीं बोल रही हूँ कि सिर्फ मेन गलत, बहुत औरतें भी, लॉट ऑफ women, तो because they're all victims of patriarchy.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
हेलो।
तो आपको वो सीरियल देखना ही नहीं चाहिए। आप क्यों देखते हैं? उसको बंद कर देना चाहिए, एटलीस्ट एक टीआरपी तो कम होगा।
हाँ, यस मैम, आप ये सही है, ये सही है।
आप दूसरों को भी कन्विंस करिए कि वो मत देखें ऐसे सीरियल्स।
ओके मैम।
मैम,
I
am Dr. Ram Kishan from Maharashtra. After 90, several women's movements emerged against violence against women, or eradication of violence against women, in which Me Too movements emerged in a couple of years. Is it playing a vital role for eradication of violence against women or sexual harassment? Please comment on that.
See, Me Too was not in the 90s. Me Too came recently, just 2 years
Yes.
back.
Okay. I was talk about after 90s, several movements.
Okay. So Me Too, I think its biggest contribution was that it brought the discussions on sexual harassment at different workplaces across the world into the public domain. Like, otherwise, would you have known about it? If there was no Me Too movement, you would have never known कि अरे अच्छा ऐसे sexual harassment हुआ था about X or Y or Z. You would have not known anything, So Me Too is very important for that. One sec, my battery is low. One sec. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah, ma'am.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, madam.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
I've
ma'am.
charged it. Okay. So that is Me Too. That all of us today know that, you know, इसने MJ Akbar ने ऐसा किया, या Nana Patekar was accused, या Alok Nath was accused, या in USA Harry Weinstein was accused, X was accused, Y was accused. So I'm not. There are many more who have done worse things. Their names we still don't know because they have not come out in the open. But at least the issue आया कि भाई lot of big names have been part of being sexual, have actually been sexual harassers. So I think that is the contribution of Me Too. Or isko for people, for young women to come out and speak is not easy.
But
because you are up against very powerful men.
Ma'am, how we can prove this sexual harassment? Because it was happened last 10 years, 14, 15 years, 6 years. How
I
we
can't
can
hear
prove?
you. Is somebody asking a question?
Hello?
Anyone, or do you have some messages that I should be looking at?
Madam? Hello? 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 Hello?
No,
Hello?
somebody has said that, can you hear me? Can you hear
Hello?
me? Okay.
Yes, madam.
Yeah, you want to ask a question?
Madam, that
Lakshmi
Me
Kant,
Too,
huh?
madam. During that Me Too campaign, many of them
I
accused
can't
many
hear
women.
you.
Madam, now you can hear me. Now you can hear me, madam. Now you can hear me, madam.
No, I'm not able to hear you.
Okay, madam. After some time, I will ask.
तहसीन 5 बज गया ना, तो Zoom खत्म हो गया. No.
Hello?
No. I'm not able to hear.
But we can hear you, madam. Clearly.
Can you hear me?
Yes, madam. Yes, madam. We can hear you.
Yeah, but I don't know why I'm not able. I'm just very faintly I'm able to hear you. I'm not able to hear you at all. Can someone, Tehseen, आप एक बार बात करो?
Hello, ma'am. Hello, ma'am.
Hello.
Hello. Hello, ma'am.
No.
Hello.
Hello, ma'am.
Yeah, I think.
Tehseen, my battery is low. Battery is low.
That's why.
My battery is low. So we
चलो
close the session. Close the session. Sorry.
Yeah, मैं बोल देता हूँ. Ma'am, thank you so much, and I think it's already 5 o'clock, and we will close this session from this. And if anybody is having any queries, you may send. You may write it in chat box, and also send through email to Madam. She will clarify. Okay. Thank you so much, and tomorrow we'll be meeting again at 10 o'clock. The link for 9:45, and link is already in your WhatsApp. Regarding attendance, we will be using your login activity as attendance. So there is no separate attendance sheet as such. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye. Thank you, madam.
Thank you.
Thank you, madam. Thank you. Very interactive, madam.
Thank you.
मैम मीटिंग क्लोज कर दें।
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.